NAIA football is the true version of what college football is supposed to be. And it is the best classroom experience an 18 to 22-year-old male can have. One of the most valuable parts of a college education is that experience. It's life in a microcosm, and it's just something special for a young man to have to experience.
And don't you let a moment go without thinking about what's there for you to reach out and grasp.
This is NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. Very happy to have you joining us tonight for our first week of the NAIA Championship Series recap show. And of course, we'll be previewing week 2. That'll be coming up, obviously, next Saturday, all across the country in the world of NAIA football. I'm your host, Jason Dannelly. Thank you very much for being a part of this show. It means a lot to us, especially everybody that was on the program last week, checking things out. We had a huge audience. Granted, that drops off a little bit this week as teams aren't participating in the postseason, but we're still looking forward to getting to all your questions and comments. Drop those in the chat. We'll get to those after a while. The first thing we're going to do is recap the 4 games from the last weekend here, and then we'll get into our matchups and then jump into your questions and everything. So without further ado, let's bring in the co-host of this show, Mr. Pat Donley. Pat, of course, former offensive coordinator for the USF Cougs, who went down this week. So as an alum, got to be a little sad on that one, Pat.
Yeah, it was a tough one. Good football game, though. I thought we had some really good matchups in this round 1. You know, this extended playoffs to 20 teams. We get these first-round matchups. I think they were really great. We saw some quality football games setting up big-time matchups this next Saturday, holiday weekend.
Yeah, and we'll get into it later. Holiday weekend, Thanksgiving travel. How does that hurt teams as we go into the postseason? But, it was a real nice opening round of the NAIA Championship Series. We saw some upsets. We saw some games go kind of how we thought they would when we were predicting them last week. And I had stated, last week, I wasn't going to get into a championship prediction until we got through that opening weekend, and then we saw how the matchups went this week, because it kind of gives us an idea of how the NAIA is going to pair things up as we go forward through the rounds. So needless to say, I'll probably get into that a little bit this week too, but some decent performances as we got through this opening weekend and kind of got Selection Sunday and everything behind us. Yeah,
no doubt. Though we have some quality games to cover, and thank you to Huddle. I'm sure we're going to hit that plug here momentarily, but huge on with Huddle to be able to watch these games the way we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I was able to check out 3 games yesterday, relatively live, in and out. I had some Thanksgiving things that were going on, with the family, kind of the pre-Thanksgiving, with the in-laws and everything. And then my family's next week. And so Huddle was huge this week. We have a direct exchange account with Huddle, so coaches are able to just send us the video after the fact. And the other thing I liked, Pat, too, was, watching some of those games live, being able to go back and get a second look, a different angle at some of the games. So it was absolutely tremendous. We love Huddle and what they're able to bring to us here on NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. So the one, Pat, that was probably a shock to some, and I don't want to say it wasn't a shock to me, like, well, I saw this coming a mile away, because I didn't, but I think you and I both said that Pike football was a lot better than their record. We saw them play a bunch of games earlier in the year against Campbellsville, against Georgetown, and we said, that's a pretty good team. Like, if they get things going, like, they could still make the postseason. They did, and they got a win.
Yeah, you look at their schedule, Jason. They had one loss that was more than 2 scores. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was down to the wire against good quality football teams that Pikeville lost to. They were 0-4. We said they were the best 0-2 team. They're the best 0-3 team, the best 0-4 team in the country. Yep. And here they are. They get the automatic qualifier for the Appalachian Conference Championship in the playoff. And I predicted this, not to pump my own tires, but I'm going to say it. I was looking forward to this game. I thought this was the shootout game. It ended up being that way. There is not a team in the playoffs that loves to throw the ball vertically more than the Pikeville Bears do. I mean, they throw the thing down the field. There's a pretty good balance. You see the running yards. I mean, again, but the way they stretch the field vertically opens up that run game opportunity. And you see the balance. And I'm really impressed with Lee Kirkland. We've seen him all year, put up numbers and throw the ball down the field. He's a big, impressive player.
Yeah.
Quarterback for Pikeville, 6'5", 6'6", 255, 260. I mean, he looks like a tackle playing quarterback, but athletic, can run the ball as well. So I'm impressed with these guys. I mean, they have a puncher's chance, Jason, because they can score. They can take it down the field. I mean, you're seeing 2-play series and vertical passing game, getting in the end zone. So I was very, very impressed with Pikeville. That travel, a team that's really not experienced a heck of a lot and having to travel long distances, goes and travels 12 hours and puts up points. Very impressive.
Yeah, you don't see teams very often travel that far across the country in the first round, put up that many points, and get the win. So credit to Pikeville on that. Baker in this game, I really felt like, Pat, this was a game of missed opportunities for Baker, especially on the defensive side. You have to consider this Baker defense was one of the better defenses in NAIA football this last year. And the thing that they did consistently week over week is the defense found a way to get a score on the board. That did not happen this week. They didn't get very many opportunities. And the one thing I think Lee Kirkland and that Pikeville offense did is it kept Baker guessing. There were a number of snap count penalties where Baker defensive linemen were coming across the ball and, either Kirkland was getting a free play or they ran a play and then, they ended up declining the penalty or just whatever. I mean, Pikeville took advantage of those situations and, they had quite a few free plays for the first round of a playoff game. I got my notes. I made notes on all these games. As we got late in that fourth quarter, it looked like, things were going to turn around for Baker. They got that interception. It looked like they were driving, able to go in, threw a jump ball that went to, Pikeville. And it just kind of, it just really hurt the momentum that Baker was getting. And then you had Eamon Williams just take an 18-yard run right into the heart of Pikeville's defense there late in the game to get that go-ahead score to go up 42-35. And that's when, I was kind of going back looking at different plays in this game. And there was a number of times where, it's not like Eamon Williams was getting this blocking around the edge and making guys misses. He was getting draws up the middle and getting a lot of daylight. So Pikeville with a great job scouting. Baker, it was terrible to see a quarterback like Truman Julesgaard get hurt last week against Missouri Baptist. Was kind of hoping he would make it back this week. He doesn't get to play such a tough kid, but Sam Hageman is a very good backup. He has played a lot of snaps this year, mostly because the way that Baker runs their quarterback position, it's a physical position. Those guys are going to take hits, so they need to have somebody there that can get the job done. And Hageman, 232 yards and 3 touchdowns, nothing to be ashamed of what he did. But you always hate to see a starting quarterback, the guy that's kind of led the entire year, go down in a game or go down prior to a game like this.
Yeah, no question. I think Hageman was very, very good, Jason. And I did not see the game plan change a heck of a lot from what we've seen Baker do offensively with Hageman in there. I thought he did a serviceable job. It's still, it sounds crazy, but I really believe, my experience, when your starter's not in there, there's something deflating about that. There just is. No matter if you have the best backup in the country, I think Hageman is more than serviceable. He's a great player. Could start probably 90% of the NAIA. But it's a mental part. It's like our starter's not in there. Now we got to rally. We got to do things to support him. But that is the confidence thing. And we've got another game to talk about here in a few minutes that I definitely saw a deflated team once a quarterback went down. But going back to Pikeville, Jason, you saw the run game with the Williams, the running back Williams just gashing Baker. I thought Pikeville, and I'm former coach, I love watching the all 22 like we did. I want to give Pikeville credit. I thought they did a great job attacking zone coverages, first and second down, spreading out Baker, creating advantageous run surfaces in the box to be able to get those run lanes going. And then, if they get man-to-man, they're calling the one-on-one options. They did a really good job attacking coverage and numbers in the box. I thought Pikeville did an exceptional job at that, and you see the numbers they put up, quite substantial. And again, it was a coaching thing. Again, they executed well, but they attacked. I thought where Baker was weak. There were a lot of zone concepts, routes, 3-man route combinations, attacking numbers with zone coverages, taking their shots off play action, different things of that nature, attacking vertically. Did an exceptional job, I thought, just really taking what was available offensively.
Yeah, Baker, I felt like offensively, they also had some missed opportunities as well. They had a 4th and 1 with 7:27 left to go in the fourth, and they leave a linebacker on the outside unblocked. I think they were thinking they were going to have a wide receiver chip down on him, and he gets in the backfield and stops Hageman on 4th and 1 for a turnover on downs. On the last drive, when Baker gets it back, drop pass at the 32-yard line on 1st and 10, another ball over the middle. That was a drop pass. And then, I think it was the final interception of the game, Hageman was throwing it to the right wide receiver. Had he led him and got out in front of him, it would have been a completion, would have been out there, but throws it just a little bit behind him and right there to the defensive back for Pikeville to get the interception. So, the postseason is about taking chances and grabbing the opportunity that you get. And Pikeville did that. And, Baker put up 35 points in this game, but it wasn't enough. Usually 35 points in the postseason is going to get you the win. But Pikeville finds a way and they advance. And we'll talk about their opponent in a little bit. They got a tall task in front of them there, Pat.
They do, for sure.
We go on to a game that was two conference champions playing one another in the preliminary first round here, Kansas Wesleyan and Dickinson State. Dickinson State gets the victory, much due to the legs of Will Madler late in this game, as he scrambled in a score late in the game to get that final 7 for Dickinson State. They put up 14 points in the fourth quarter to get the win, 126 yards through the air for Madler, 48 on the ground. He was the guy that made this offense go. There's a couple different running backs in Zerhoff and Caleb Riss that were getting it done on the ground, but it never, even in the victory, Pat, it never seemed like Dickinson State really got going. Kansas Wesleyan was definitely the aggressor in the early portion of this game, and if you just didn't really pay attention to the final score and maybe a couple mistakes, it looked like Kansas Wesleyan was running away with this game early.
No question. I think the game ends in the third quarter. I mean, Kansas Wesleyan is the better team, significantly better, I thought. The fourth quarter was Dickinson State football. I mean, grinding out 2 long drives, quarterback run game. I thought Zeroff and Rist as complementary pieces to one another were fantastic. I thought really, really good. And I'll be honest with you, Jason, I thought we saw some fatigue, bust legs maybe in that fourth quarter from the Coyotes. We saw more of a physical push up front from Dickinson State. You saw more movement up front in the fourth quarter of moving in the defensive line, getting up to linebackers and getting the run game going, where you did not see that the first 3 quarters. I thought Kansas Wesleyan controlled the football game. I think they played very, very well. If you could play a perfect road game, playoff game, long travel, sound, smart, good balance of what they were doing offensively, played sound enough defense, especially defending the run, those first 3 quarters, they did it. I mean, held the Dickinson State to 13 points. I mean, you have to be ecstatic if you're Kansas Wesleyan.
100%.
Dickinson State got back to their core, man. They're going to grind out, run game and kind of prey upon the fatigue, I think, of Kansas Wesleyan in the fourth quarter and just carried play physically up front in the run game.
And Dickinson State, they had some opportunities early in this game to potentially pull away a little bit. Kansas Wesleyan was able to get a pick in Dickinson's end zone, kind of a ball that battled around a little bit in the first or second quarter there, can't quite remember. And then they had a strip at midfield of Dickinson State to force a couple turnovers in this game and keep themselves in it. And credit to Kansas Wesleyan, Luke Armstrong, 156 yards on the ground. He had like a 76-yard run to get a touchdown for the Coyotes. And they were every bit in this game and where they needed to be. And again, this was a nice matchup that I wanted to see. One, for Dickinson to get the home game, kind of get the playoff going again before they go on the road and head back out to Montana for like the 20th time in the last 20 years. Whenever they end up playing in the postseason, it's designated Montana opponent is what it ends up being. So I will be interested. Pat, you and I were talking a little bit before the show. We watched Dickinson State a year ago in this round against Montana Tech, and we saw a physical team. The offensive line was getting pushed on the ball. They were being aggressive constantly. They were really, I think Zeroff had 200 yards in that game last year. And I don't see that physicalness up front on the offensive line, or at least I didn't see as much of it on the offensive line for Dickinson in this game. And that's something that they'll definitely need against Montana Western.
There's no question. And you saw in the fourth quarter, I think, Jason, again, Was that fatigue from Kansas Wesleyan? Was it the long sustained drives? And again, credit Dickinson State for possessing the ball and grinding out those 2 drives, essentially, 2 scoring drives that won the football game, bled the clock. Kansas Wesleyan didn't have much of an opportunity to take any type of possession and score in the fourth quarter. Dickinson State had the ball the entire quarter. I mean, just grinding out. I would love to know, I don't know, I should have counted the number of plays in those 2 drives. The game-winning drive it had to be 10 plus, 12 plus. I think the previous one was about the same or even longer. I mean, they were set back, in minus territory, and literally 12, 14 play drives, run game, quarterback run game, different things, enough passing game, complimentary passing game. But it was a physical, grinded out Dickinson State. Coach Beasley was probably had a tear in his eye watching those 2 drives, because it was old school. I mean, it was modern football. They're the gun and all that. What they're doing looks like modern football, but the principles are there. It's gap schemes, it's quarterback run power, and I mean it's good stuff. But it was physical and sustained drives. So again, like you said, Jason, they got to keep that going, because that's their identity. It really is.
Yeah, the last 2 drives for Dickinson, 15 plays, 59 yards, 16 plays, 84 yards.
There you go.
Grinding it out to get the victory. So Dickinson State advances. Southwestern also advances with a 31-24 win over the University of St. Francis of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Tough game for USF. They battled back. They tied things up late in the fourth, but Braden Howell just takes the Mound Builders down the field, adds to his 4 touchdowns. Howell, I tell you, man, we've been saying this about Southwestern all year. They've got a really nice run game. Their passing game builds off that run game. Their defense just doesn't make mistakes. And Howell, and watching him a little more extensively over the last couple of weeks, Pat, I like the way that this kid plays ball. I mean, he goes out, he can sling it, and he just looks so poised under pressure. USF was bringing guys at him, and he just kind of sitting there and then just, flip it out there. The kid looked really good, and, bodes well for Southwestern to get that first round win over USF.
Yeah, you can see a senior quarterback, knows their system inside and out. He was very, very confident. You could see that confidence, again, permeate through the program. St. Francis has some great players. I mean, they do. They had probably one of the best defensive lines I think the Jinx have seen. And they got some pressure. Like you said, Hal just calm, collected, deliver the ball. He's very, very athletic. I mean, almost you would consider him a dual threat. He's pretty close to be if he's not. He's certainly serviceable, extending plays and scrambling when he needs to. I was very impressed with their balance and what they do. Good receiving core. I talked to the USF coaching staff on defense. They were concerned about the receiving core. They got some really good players on the perimeter, sound players. It was kind of tough for USF. I thought Kolko has been so good all year, Jason. He came in about week 3 and took over this football team and really never looked back. Probably going to be the Midwest Player of the Year, I would guess. The Mid-States Football Association had a knee injury after the first possession of the game. And you could see kind of the air let out of the balloon a little bit for USF. I thought Grant Grimmel, who has started all last season and the first 2 games of this season, came in. Obviously, tons of experience. He's like a 5th-year senior. Did very well. But Colquitt gave this team an identity, some confidence, some swagger, if you will. I saw it. Obviously, I'm close to the situation. And when he went out, it was like, tough. And again, Grimmel did a great job. And there's, very few situations as good at quarterback as what USF has in the NAIA. But that was deflating. But you see it. You saw the grit of the USF team coming back, making that a heck of a football game. I don't know if you want to get into how things kind of ended, but it was a great game. I mean, it was a really classic, NAIA football game. USF's got the 14-hour travel. I mean, it's crazy, man, what they did. I heard all about it, obviously. But a really good football game. I thought it was one that if you turn on the live stream and pay your $10, it's worth it.
Yeah, it 100% was. Glad we had the opportunity to kind of go back. And that last drive, by Howell, I felt like such poise under pressure. He didn't let things get to him. He had a couple really nice scrambles to get loose. And then, got the touchdown kind of into double coverage down the sideline to get the win for the Mound Builders there. It was just a gutsy performance by Southwestern. And that's one of those opportunities. And I'm not saying, it had nothing to do with refereeing or anything like that, but what you have the confidence when you're playing at home in the postseason to make that throw, to make that final drive, to make that push. And that's why we talk about home field is just so important, because that's probably, the difference between Southwestern winning and USF winning. That might be the difference between Kansas Wesleyan winning and Dickinson State winning. You've got bus legs. You've just got all those little things that start to like pile up at the end of the game. Home field, very important. Southwestern, gets this win, and now they get another test from the Mid-States Football Association. We'll talk about in just a little bit. But, the thing I look back at for USF in this game, obviously, terrible. Kolka goes down with the injury. We hope that young man, is able to get everything going again and get back for football, obviously, in the next year. But the impressive thing I thought about Grimmel in this game, you go on a road game. Kolka's the guy that's been starting. You haven't had a lot of snaps. He came in, threw for 192, got a couple touchdowns, and the thing that plagued him probably early in the season were the turnovers and interceptions. We didn't see that from him when he came into this game, and he gave USF every opportunity, to try to get this win. But Southwestern, man, I tell you what, they are just an efficient, hard-nosed football team.
Totally agree, and you got to give Hal credit. I totally agree with you, Jason. That touchdown, I don't know how many seconds were left. It was like, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, something like that. Yeah. It was at the very end. And it was kind of a weird setup how things happen. Dropped interception, it probably takes the game to overtime. Certainly USF was kind of thinking that was the case. And sure enough, like you said, Hal, just so efficient, knows that system inside out, cool, calm, collected, makes some tremendous plays. Every opportunity, then he throws an absolute dime for the touchdown. Just gorgeous play.
For the first time in the history of this show, my corgi has decided to visit us down here. Franks, come here. Come here. You want to be famous? You want to be famous and on TV real quick? Come here. Come here.
I've never seen this dog. I've heard
this dog never comes downstairs during the show, and she looks terrified on the air. Okay, she's probably gone now.
FaceTime. You gotta get some FaceTime.
Yeah, and of course now I'm covered in her hair. You can get out of here now, Franks. Sorry for the break, everyone, but that's my Herb Street moment there. My dog's not quite as well behaved as Herb Street's dogs.
Herb Street's dog passed away. It was so sad.
Yeah, but now they have a new one. He's got the new one out there. Yeah. Sorry. We'll get back to the world of NAIA football. I got 2 of them. You bring mine on. I got 2 of them. Yeah, just playing with dogs here.
Right.
Ottawa, Arizona goes on the road to play Friends University in Wichita. This was a ball game I was very interested in. I was thinking Ottawa would go in and get the upset because I liked what Ottawa had for speed. I think Luke Guerin as a quarterback is a quality quarterback, and by the numbers he looked at. But Friends did the one thing I didn't know that they would be completely able to do, and that's totally shut down the run game for the Spirit. Ottawa, -5 yards rushing in this game. Granted, there were some sacks that brought things down, but the running back only had like 25 yards on the ground. Friends with a fantastic defensive game plan, basically to say to Ottawa, we're going to take away the run. We're not going to let you throw it over the top. If you want to throw a 5-yard out all day, every day, we'll let you have that, and we'll kind of work the law of averages here that we're going to be able to stop that, and they did. So Friends, even though they gave up 35 points in this game, I thought their defensive game plan in this one, Pat, was absolutely perfect to say, all right, Ottawa, we're not going to let you do this and this. You're going to have to beat us this way, and Ottawa wasn't able to do it.
It's a great job. Again, you go into executing game plan, especially, they've not had a lot of experience in the playoffs, right? How many times has Friends made the playoffs? This is, I know, the first victory, I think, correct?
First
Jason,
victory. Yeah, they've been in the postseason some. It's been a while since they've made it in, but they certainly haven't had success. Yeah,
program history?
I believe this is first victory in program history. Yeah,
awesome. This is what this time of year is all about. Your coaches, everybody's pulling the rope, Jason. It's your players. It's obviously your strength conditioning staff, getting these guys conditioned properly, your training staff, keeping people healthy as much as possible, and your coaching staff putting together a great game plan and giving your players an opportunity at success. And certainly, holding the Spirit offense, it's still 35 points, but they knew they couldn't give up big plays, right?
Yep.
And that's what they did, and worked out. And this system, the old triple option, baby. That's some points for triple option, Jason.
That it is. That was a heck of a lot of points that they were able to put up, and we'll talk about it. So Friends has made it to the postseason 92, 06, and 08. Monty Lewis was the coach for that run that they had back in kind of the mid-2000s. They had kind of that anticlimactic historic game against Northwest Oklahoma State where Northwest Oklahoma State beat them, and then we found out a couple days later NWOSU had an eligible player. So technically Friends got the win, but by that point it was like Tuesday, and then Friends was going to have to scramble to figure out how to go to Carroll College for a quarterfinal game. And then they said, yeah, no, Carroll's just going to get
everybody come back,
win there.
Back to campus. We need you.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So, but yeah, so Friends with their first playoff victory, I was super impressed with the toughness of Cavante Baker in this. 22 carries, 179 yards. You know, that kid gets hit around. That kid gets beat around a little bit. And I should say, man, you know, he's not a kid. He's not a 20-year-old kid. You know, he's was out of school for a little bit, came back, and he does such a great job leading this offense. Thoroughly impressed by how Baker runs the option and is able to get it to guys like Pino or Cordova to help this run game out. I mean, they've got so many weapons that they can get the ball to in the backfield, and it makes it so tough to plan for. And that's the other thing you have to consider. Ottawa, Arizona's defense has not seen, nobody in the NAIA has seen an option like Friends. And I know people will kind of go, well, an option like Friends, what does that mean? Nobody runs the option as good or as efficiently as Friends University in Wichita, Kansas does at the NAIA level. I mean, this is a la Harding Division II going and winning the national championship, running the option, because people just don't see it. And this is an especially dangerous team when you get into the postseason, because you've only got 6 days to try to plan for something that you have not seen for the entire year. And Friends University taking full advantage of the postseason and playing a fantastic game offensively, doing what they do on offense, putting up the rushing yards, but defensively, moreover, being able to figure out what they needed to do to get by Ottawa, and they get the victory in this one.
And Jason, we talked about it all year. I think some of the best players in the NAIA are the running backs. I mean, I've said that before. Add Baker to this as well, Cavante Baker. I mean, that guy has been a workhorse all season for Friends. And you look at the Dickinson State, two-headed monster. They're great. But there's some really solid running backs in this affiliation. And, so impressed with the system, like you talked about the option. You know, this is more of your traditional like Air Force, Army, Navy under center, where you see Dort, you see Taylor, more of the spread option, where they're in the shotgun more. It's more jet sweeps, it's misdirection. Yeah, there is some pitch phase to what they do from the gun, but this is like your traditional, it's downhill, fullback dive, that type of stuff. So it's a little bit different, but they run it very well. And we're going to talk about these matchups in round 2. Maybe the best defense in the country, probably the best defense in the country, seeing the triple option. Going to be very interesting.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here just a little bit. I want to get to a comment that was put up here. And, Friends left 8 points on the board as well. They missed 2 PATs, 2 field goals, should have been 55-35. I don't bring that up to talk specifically about this game. But, Pat, did you notice, I felt like for a playoff week, there was a significant amount of kicking errors by a lot of teams. Missed field goals, kickoffs out of bounds. Pikeville was going sky kick most of the time and kicking short and to the right and not going deep. So I've kind of felt like that this was, being a playoff game, a playoff week, there was a lot of kicking errors for playoff football.
I'm going to say something controversial, and this may get me in a lot of trouble. Get ready. I don't think the playoffs teams this weekend play very good special teams in general.
No.
I don't think there's an emphasis. And I'm not being critical. I love the affiliation. I'm rooting for all these teams to be the best they possibly can be. I saw a lot of lax approach, maybe in special teams. In the return game, nothing drives me crazy as a former coach than seeing punts hit the ground and roll. Yeah. There's no excuse for it. Or forcing no punt rush. PAT field goal, no rush. You don't take the extra time to really make that a play that's contested. It's almost like, hey, either you make it or you don't. We're not going to, rush the damn thing. So it's frustrating to me a little bit. I didn't think special teams in general was very good this weekend. I think the offense and defenses were fantastic. They were fun to watch. But yeah, special teams was kind of that third phase I thought was lacking in general, in my opinion, just watching these games.
No, I would agree 100% with you. It just, there are a lot of kicking errors. And then as we get further into the postseason here, I guess we'll see how that kind of works out for some of these teams. So let's fully get into the second round pairings, talk about some of these games. The number one team in the country, Kaiser, is going to get Pikeville. This is going to be a battle for Pikeville, Pat. I mean, Kaiser comes in undefeated, scoring 38 points a game, only giving up 18. They've got a solid rushing offense, solid passing offense. They're very balanced. Pikeville, we know they put up a ton of points. They put up a ton of yards, but they give up a ton of points and a ton of yards. So just looking at the statistics between these two teams, Pat, I mean, Pikeville could go down to Miami Gardens, or excuse me, could go down to West Palm, different place in Florida. Got to make sure I keep it straight. I get yelled at when I don't get the towns right. They could go down there and put up some points, but I don't know if they've seen a defense like Kaiser's since they played Georgetown. And they only put up 20 against them, and that one was a battle. So it'll be very interesting in this matchup. Pat, what are your thoughts on Kaiser and Pikeville?
Contrasting approaches offensively. I mean, you couldn't be more polar opposite, really, of what, well, maybe you threw the option there. Kaiser is a 11, 12, 21 personnel. I mean, you're going to see multiple backs. You're going to see tight ends. It is every run scheme you can imagine is going to be thrown at Pikeville. I mean, they are a run-first physical team up front. Complementary play action and passing game with that, but it is run game all the way, without question. It led them to the national championship last year. And Pikeville is going to throw the thing vertically, baby. I can tell you, I bet Pikeville's probably excited because they're not going north. They're going south. I mean, it's going to be kind of conducive for what they do from at least a weather standpoint. They're not going to Sioux City, Iowa, where it's going to be 15 degrees or 20 degrees. It's not going to be
warm.
It's going to be gorgeous where they're going. And I'm not saying this is going to be an upset, for the ages, but I think Pikeville's going to move the ball. I do. Yeah. I think they're too good. And I don't think Kaiser, I mean, they're seeing some good teams down there, but I think, I don't want to say that St. Thomas is kind of the comp, I think, offensively at least. Kaiser's going to run the ball. They're going to move the ball against Pikeville, certainly. Yes. But they've not seen maybe an aerial attack even close to what Pikeville's going to show them since St. Thomas. That's just my feeling on it. They got some dudes, Jason. I mean, I don't think this is a blowout. I think it's going to be high scoring potentially, and I think Kaiser can sit on the ball, and I think that will be the approach. Honestly, it's going to be grinding out 15 play drives with run game and complementary pass, and play sound defense as much as possible. Pikeville has some guys that can make plays. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I think Pikeville has a quality offense that's going to be able to move the ball a little bit against this Kaiser defense. But I think ultimately Kaiser's defense is going to be a little bit too much. Kaiser, they can't make the mistake that other teams have made this year and just look at that Pikeville record and think, hey, we're going to breeze into this game and get ourselves a victory. I think it will be one of those games where early on we see a little bit of this, and then we're going to see Kaiser pull away in this. I still think Kaiser is your odds-on favorite to win the NAIA championship, but needless to say, that's why we play the games. We're looking forward to this one Saturday. Pat, we go to the next one. It's Friends in Grandview. I'm going to let you take it for a couple seconds because I had to drop off the screen real quick. So your thoughts on this Friends Grandview game? Well,
we know how good Grandview is on defense, giving up 6 points a game. Seeing a triple option team, the way that Friends runs the triple option is going to be a challenge. I don't care who you are. And having limited time to replicate, first off, to scheme, then replicate in practice is going to be a challenge for the Vikings. Friends is very, very good at what they do. It's going to be really interesting. And I think the key thing is going to be Grandview's offense and how they hopefully capitalize from their stake, from their point of view, in the opportunities that they have. Because I can tell you, Friends is going to try to sit on the ball, shorten the game as much as possible with that system. And Grandview is going to have to make hay with those opportunities that they get. Very, very good offensively. I was very impressed at the end of the season where Grandview, how they looked in their execution offensively, and they're going to be challenged once again. Going to be very, very interesting. I think this is one of the most fun matchups. I couldn't tell you how this is going to end, Jason, from a final score standpoint, but I want to see the best defense in the country go against this system and
Yes.
how they attack it and how they go about it. And like I mentioned, I don't know if you heard what I was saying, Jason. I
Yes.
think the Grandview offense is the key to this thing because I think they're going to get very few opportunities. I mean, Friends is going to sit on this thing as much as they possibly can. So the Vikings have really got to make it count when they get it. And I thought they've executed offensively, especially late in the season, very, very well. But they've got to capitalize when they have the opportunity because Friends is not going to give them too many opportunities, I don't think.
No, I think, and we were kind of talking about this pre-show a little bit, gosh, how do you think this game's going to go? And I said, I think it's going to be Grandview football. I think at the end of the first quarter, people are going to look at the score and they're going to go, oh, geez, Grandview's 7-7 with Friends. Oh, Grandview 14-10 with Grandview and Friends. And Grandview's just that team. I think they kind of have this attitude like, everybody just chill out. We got this. I know it's 14-7. By the end of this quarter, it's going to be 21-7. And then by the end of the next quarter, all of a sudden, it's going to be 28-7. And then by the end of the game, it's 35-7, 35-10. And I think that's what, Grandview just has this yeoman's-like attitude. Like, hey, we play 60 minutes. Like, we don't have to get everything done in the first 15. We'll grind it out against you. Now, the thing, and you did mention this, I think the key to this game is Grandview's offense. Grandview's offense has to be able to move the ball and get points against Friends. And we've already seen that Friends' rushing defense is pretty stout. They were able to shut down Ottawa, Arizona. They've shut down a lot of teams in the KCAC. Grandview with Jackson Waring, he's a good running quarterback. They have to be able to get loose and run the ball. And Grandview has to get points because if there's anything we have found out about Friends this year, you can't let them hang around in a football game. If you let them hang around, they're going to find a way to ultimately try to win that game in the late stages. They did it against Southwestern with a blocked field goal that they were able to return for a touchdown. They did it against McPherson. They did it against a lot of teams this year where late in the game, you let Friends hang around, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to run the football. They're going to kill the clock. And they're just going to be efficient with it. So the key to this game, going back to it, Pat, like you said, is going to be Grandview's ability on offense to generate yards and get points and be able to, kind of overcome Friends hanging around. If they can get themselves, that 2-3 score lead, it kind of eliminates Friends from being able to get that quick comeback because Friends isn't going to be able to, drop back and air things out. I mean, the only pass they completed last week was a running back on a halfback pass, one of their wide receivers for a touchdown. So if they get in a situation where, down the stretch, Friends are going to throw the ball 10 times, it's just not going to happen. So I think obviously Grandview's the number 2 team in the country for a reason. It's going to be, I don't want to say a struggle. It's going to be different for Grandview preparing this week. It'll be a week of preparation like they haven't had throughout the season. Ultimately, though, I do think Grandview is the better team. They've got the better defense. This is their game to win, but they just have to be wary of these things that Friends is going to bring to the table.
No question. And the game plan / preparation. Can you find a athletic running back, wide receiver to duplicate the system? You ask around. I mean, I'm being serious when you do this. When you play a triple option team, you don't put a quarterback and scout team. You find an athlete. You find someone maybe has even run the system in high school. I mean, we used to do that and try to find a guy that can kind of learn at least some of the reads and kind of create the speed of that system. So it's a challenge. I don't care. Grandview, as good as they are, as good as that defensive staff is, it's stressful in preparing for because it has to be so detailed in your approach.
We talked about Southwestern already today and what they did with their victory over the University of St. Francis. They now go to Indiana Wesleyan, a team that beat St. Francis early in the year. And Indiana Wesleyan has kind of been that team we talked about a bunch, probably the first 6 weeks of the year. And then our talk about them has been less and less because they've just been killing people. Like they've just been blowing people out of the water. They're 10-1. They put up a ton of points on offense, put up a ton of yards on offense. Their defense is really good. Southwestern is going to have a real challenge with a 14, 15-hour bus ride going to Marion, Indiana to play Indiana Wesleyan. Wesleyan's got, all the tools on offense. They've got a stout defense. Southwestern is that team that is going to grind it out. They're good on the run. They're good with the pass. Their defense is pretty efficient. They might be able to surprise some people in this game, Pat. But ultimately, I kind of look at how Indiana Wesleyan has played this year, and even with all these stats for how good Southwestern has been this year, Indiana Wesleyan has been taking, they've been taking people's souls at times this year.
They've been kicking the crap out of people, Jason.
Yes. Yes.
To be very honest. I mean, in good teams, they're beating the crap out of. I mean, the Marion St. Francis, I mean, they've beaten teams badly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm anxious to see that week off. Was it beneficial? We had that big discussion, I think, 2 shows ago. Who benefits from having the bye week? Who doesn't? Indiana Wesleyan, I think they've been banged up a little bit. I've not really followed some of the personnel things that have happened late in the year closely because, again, they're just beating people so badly. But there's rumors that they've had some guys banged up. So did that week get people healed up and ready to go for this playoff run? Did it maybe take some mojo away? I don't know. I will tell you that the Mound Builders got a long trip. They're going to go into hostile territory and play probably the most efficient team they've ever seen.
Yep.
And that what they do, they don't make mistakes. The Wildcats do not make mistakes. Are they flashy? No. They're very, very good. They've got great players. I'm not saying that, but they don't make mistakes. Everything is efficient in what they do.
Yes.
They're very well coached. This is very much like a Morningside. They won the 3 national championships a handful of years ago. This team looks just like that to me. They know how to win. They're well coached. They're well prepared. They're high character. They don't make mistakes. They're smart football players. That's what I see from Indiana Wesleyan. I think this team makes a deep run. I wouldn't be shocked if we'd see this team in certainly the Final Four, if not in the national championship. That's my feeling on it. But yeah, Southwestern has certainly a challenge with travel and playing this great football team.
Yeah, I would agree. It's going to be a big challenge for Southwestern. I think Indiana Wesleyan, with that week off, if they've gotten a chance to be healthy, can ultimately make the big run this year. That could get them into Durham, North Carolina, and potentially playing for a national championship. Dickinson takes the mandatory trip west that they do whenever they make the postseason this year to play Montana Western. And Coach Ryan Norse's crew has been pretty dang good this year. Only 1 loss. That was a road loss to Southern Oregon early in the year. Otherwise, Montana Western has just been trucking right along, putting up 43.3 points per game. That offense has really become a lot more balanced throughout the year. That was something we talked about early on, Pat. We wanted to see that run game improve. It did with the Humphrey kid and Palandry at the quarterback position. They've got a true running offense now. I think it makes them very dangerous in the postseason. And Dickinson State, they're a quality football team. They've got a great leader at quarterback in Will Madler. Their defense has held teams down for the most part this year. But I don't think Dickinson State has seen a team like Montana Western yet this year. Montana Western, consequently, has seen a lot of teams like Dickinson State on their schedule, and I think that's going to really play into the hands of the Bulldogs to get a victory in the second round, pardon me.
Jason, we've talked about this. There's a couple of points I want to make, I think, with the Frontier Conference. One, the depth. Western has played playoff quality opponents all season. They are well tested. They know exactly what it takes, I think, to win a football game like this. And the second point is the Frontier Conference teams at home don't lose.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen. And Dillon, with this new stadium, is such a cool environment. I mean, these folks are excited about this football team. They are. My goodness. They're so good. I mean, I think this is another team that I think is as good as there is. I think Palandry think the world of him. I think the balance offensively is absolutely huge. If I'm Dickinson State, I'm trying to go 3 yards in a cloud of rubber pellets. It's not good.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to grind this thing. I want to have those 2 drives that we had, if I'm Dickinson State, that we executed against Kansas Wesleyan in the fourth quarter. It needs to be the entire game.
Yep.
To have a chance, in my opinion. To keep the ball away from Palandry and that offense. Do the best you can to get great movement up front and getting 3 yards. I mean, that's what you have to do, I think, to be competitive in this game. This is the matchup that I think is the most lopsided. That's my opinion. I like Dickinson State. I think they're a physical football team. I like what they do, but I think in Dillon, with that team, that balance, and that offense, frankly, I think is a real challenge for Dickinson State.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Dickinson State last year, we saw a team that played physical football the entire year, ground teams down, had a very strong run game the entire year, and we've seen glimpses of that from Dickinson this year. I think Dickinson is a quality team, but I don't. When they went to Montana Tech last year to play in the postseason, I said that this team is every bit as physical as Montana Tech is, and that's why I think they've got a chance to win. I got a lot of crap for that. Dickinson won. I look like a genius. I'm not one. This year, I see Dickinson State going to Montana Western, and I'm saying I don't think they're as physical up front as what Montana Western is, and I think that's going to pose a real problem for the Blue Hawks. Like you said, Pat, they've got to have drives like they had in the fourth quarter to shorten this game and give themselves an opportunity to win this. The Tigers of Georgetown are going to see the Bobcats of St. Thomas. Tigers going south for Thanksgiving. Going to be playing in Miami Gardens, Florida for this one at a beautiful facility at St. Thomas. I was at it a couple weeks ago. I was able to catch practice there a little bit. Wow. I mean, this will be a nice trip for Georgetown. And this is a really good matchup, I think, Pat, because, you know, Georgetown has just found ways to win. They've got a pretty good defense. Their offense has been efficient enough. Now, how are they going to do against St. Thomas on the road? And how is St. Thomas going to do against them? You know, kind of one of the first challenges that the Bobcats have seen since a close game against Weber International and Southeastern. So St. Thomas at home with the advantage, but Georgetown, you know, this is a team that's got a lot of experience in the postseason.
No question. Blue blood program in the eye, Georgetown College. Think the world, national championship coach, Coach Oliver, who is tremendous. He knows what it takes to make a playoff run without question. They did it last year. Again, he won a national championship just a handful of years ago. Knows exactly what it takes. Now, with that being said, rumor is they're driving. That's what I'm hearing.
Fun.
Maybe. By the way,
folks, be having Thanksgiving at the Cracker Barrel somewhere in Georgia, probably.
Or Shoney's. Don't forget Shoney's.
Shoney's. Don't forget Shoney's. Yeah.
I will tell you, if folks don't know where Georgetown, Kentucky is on the map, it's 60 miles south of Cincinnati. This is not exactly like southern Kentucky or you're close to the Tennessee border. You got to haul to South Florida. I don't like that part of it, Jason. I really don't. If they're flying, I feel a heck of a lot better about it. There's a couple things I'm curious about in this game. One, I think it's going to be Neal and a whole bunch in the run game. And it's going to be a lot of screens, Jason, because I will tell you this. The one huge advantage the Bobcats have over the Tigers, those defensive ends on tackles. Mm-hmm. I think the pass rush, the individuals that St. Thomas has are fantastic on the edge. Really, really good, man. I mean, they can pin their ears back and rush the passer. So I think if you're Georgetown, you want to have a good balance of what you do in the quick game, passing game. Kneel on the ground. Sounded weird. Kneel the running back on the ground, not kneeling, guy. And screen game, because I tell you what, this pass rush is legit. It really is. And I think that's kind of been the Achilles heel a little bit for Georgetown with their pass protection this year, from what I'm seeing. They're not able to take the ball down the field like Coach Oliver would like to. So I think that's an interesting matchup. And I think the balance of St. Thomas's offense, which Georgetown's seen some good offenses this year, Jason. So I think they're seasoned pretty well for this opportunity, playing FCS and playing Montana Tech on the road. But I think St. Thomas is quality, man. I love their balance. I love their personnel, weapons on the outside. Efficient quarterback, again, knows the system well, distributes the ball to the proper people on time, which I love seeing, and a great running back. So this team, meaning St. Thomas, I think we talked about them being the top at large. They've earned that. I think they're a tremendous team, and I expect a good football game, but I don't like to travel for Georgetown, and I don't particularly like this matchup in a lot of ways. I think St. Thomas is a very, very good football team. Yep.
I think the offensive three-headed monster of Watson at quarterback, Farmer in the backfield, and then you've got Haynes out on the outside at the wide receiver position. That's going to cause some problems. You got Nick Engler up front, who's one of the best defensive linemen in the NAIA. I think St. Thomas is going to give Georgetown some problems. But the thing is about Georgetown, and I don't want to make it sound like we're just like breaking our arms off to pat coaches on the back, but I look at a Chris Oliver coach team. They will be ready. They will be prepared. They will do all the things to not step off the bus and then just get boat raced in the first half because they had to drive halfway across the country for this game. So I think the Tigers are going to be extremely competitive in this one. I think more challenging than probably some outside of Georgetown, Kentucky are probably going to give them credit for. I do think St. Thomas wins this game, but I think the Tigers are going to give them every bit of fight possible in that game. We move on to the Midwest, a much shorter trip, just from Olathe, Kansas, up to Sioux City, South Dakota. The Morningside Mustangs will be hosting MidAmerican Nazarene. This will be a tough matchup for Morningside, probably the best offense that they have seen in a while. You know, really, Benedictine was a powerful offense they saw early in the year. Northwestern did not put up a lot on offense against them. Dort did not put up a lot of offense against them. You know, maybe Concordia a little bit in this league, but this Mid-American Nazarene offense will be the best offense that Morningside has faced in quite a while. And we could see potentially a lot of points in this game if Nazarene's offense can get loose. But I think Morningside's defense has been extremely stout this year, Pat. I think they'll cause problems for the Pioneers.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I want to see what Mid-American Nazarene offense shows up. I'll be honest with you. I think they've got weapons. I think it's a great scheme. I think they're well coached. I think the trek up to Sioux City, Iowa is going to be interesting as to see who shows. Because I've seen two versions, I think, of Mid-American's offense.
Yes.
Just kind of asleep at the wheel against I'm trying to think, that was Baker. Right? Yeah. But then in Benedictine, it was awesome. I mean, just lights out vertical passing game, play action, complementary pieces to the run game, just all fitting together so well to execute on offense. And then the week later, it's just like falls flat. So, it's a decent trip, certainly. I think they're going to be prepared from a game plan standpoint to take on the Mustangs, but they've got to show up and drive this thing. I think the offense has to do it for Mid-American Nazarene without question. But yeah, Morningside's been there, done it, experienced staff. There is no more experienced staff in success in the postseason than this one. Talking about Morningside and Coach Ryan, fantastic 3 national championships. I think this is a tough one because it's in Sioux City. They are tough to beat there, Jason. I know this firsthand. They are a good football team in the playoffs, in their element, in their facility. This is going to be a challenge.
Yeah, the Mustangs on offense, Zach Chevalier, Great Plains Athletic Conference Player of the Year. He's going to be slinging it on the offense. They've got a lot of weapons at the wide receiver position. They got Lennox Brown, kind of a big kid, played quarterback for him some last year, really came in as a wide receiver. He's a weapon. Their run game's got going this year. I think the Mustangs at home is going to be a very tall task for Mid-American Nazarene. This game will ultimately come down to, I really think, if Mid-American Nazarene's offense can get going a little bit on that Morningside defense and score some points. But if Morningside's defense locks them down the way they locked down Dort and the way they locked down Northwestern, I think Morningside's going to get a lead in this one, and then you're going to get into the third quarter, and you're just going to look at this and go, wow, this is a Morningside ball game, and MNU just is not going to have an opportunity to come back.
One more. Sorry, Jason, go ahead. I thought you were done.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say Mid-American Nazarene's offense has got to get going and has got to perform well against the Mustangs.
I have one other thing. I think Chevalier has to do a great job taking care of the football.
Yes.
We've talked about it throughout the year. That guy will make some of the best throws you've ever seen. Man, it looks like the Morningside National Championship run throws, those great quarterbacks that they had, but it looks just like it. And every once in a while, he's just throwing into double coverage. He's doing some things, I think, even their RPO game, misreading some things. So I think, Chevalier's had a week to prepare, kind of waiting around who they're going to play. Run a lot of 7-on-7 against that Mustang defense in practice last week, kind of general looks and getting back to some core principles of what they do. But he's got to do a great job executing their offense, not forcing the football into bad looks, into double coverage, things of that nature. He's got to take care of the ball. Because I think if they execute the way they're capable of, this is a Morningside victory. But that's kind of a wild card for me, to be honest with you, Jason.
Yep. You gotta take care of the ball in the postseason. Chevalier this year has been really good at it. There's been a couple games he hasn't been real good at it, and it could be the thing that is the difference in this game. We move on to more football. And by the way, we're getting towards the end of our recaps of these games and our previews of these games. So if you've got any questions for us, drop them in the comments. We'll get to them as we get set to wrap up the show here in a few minutes. We want to answer all your questions that you've possibly got. You got Northwestern going to Montana Tech. Josh asking us any idea if Northwestern is driving or flying to Butte. I'm going to say they're driving there. I don't even have that information, but just based on how the NAIA does postseason and looking at this game, I think they'll be driving to Montana Tech. And I also say that because a couple years ago, Montana Tech played at Morningside. I believe it was a semifinal game. Might have been a quarterfinal game, and Montana Tech drove to Sioux City for that game, and it's essentially the same drive. I mean, you're adding another like 45 minutes on, and after 12 hours, what's another 45 minutes? Am I right, Pat?
Yeah.
So the Red Raiders taking their very stout defense up to Montana Tech. This is going to be a physical game, Pat. Montana Tech 9-2, playing, of course, out of the Frontier Conference. Wins this year over Georgetown, Carroll, Southern Oregon. They lost to Montana Western. This offense can run the football. They're a physical team up front. Northwestern is a physical team up front defensively. They've shut teams down. They've only allowed 8.7 points per game. Their rushing offense at 150 yards per game. Northwestern showed against Morningside their defense could really tame a wild offense, as the Mustangs were only able to put up 13 points against them in that Morningside victory over Northwestern. Northwestern, they held Dordt to 0 points and won a game 3-0. So I see a very physical game between these two. I see them running the football. I see Montana Tech getting the win, Pat, but I think Northwestern is going to go up there and play a physical style of football that maybe Montana Tech wouldn't expect out of a team that's not in the Frontier Conference. I think the Ore Diggers might get their eyes open a little bit by the Red Raiders.
960 miles, by the way. Almost 14 hours.
It's all straight. Once you get to Fargo, it's just they got 2 turns, literally. You get on I-29, you go north to Fargo.
No, they're going
to Rapid.
The direct route I'm looking at it looks like it's just due west through up to Sioux Falls and over to Rapid City, then through Montana.
Hey, if they want to swing through Fargo and say hi, I'm here. That's all I'm saying.
I get caught in a blizzard going that far north.
True.
Yeah, so this is kind of a weird deal in that we're going to say something that we've never really said, at least not in a long time, is Northwestern. This is a defensive football team. This is a team that we're not talking about Gramstead and all the weapons. Now, some of those guys are still there, the receiving core, and McQuillan, who I love, still there. But they just don't have that consistent quarterback play, the National Player of the Year type play from the quarterback position. So they're really relying on this defense. And they've answered the call numerous times throughout the year. 8-2 record, have played tremendous, like you said, shutouts against arguably a playoff team, at least in the argument with Dordt. And you're looking at the run game defense, the yards per game that Northwestern is giving up. Well, guess what? Here comes Lander Smith for you. And I bet he carries it, Jason. If I'm putting over-under on this, I'm putting 30 on it.
30.
Least.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'd say 32 probably is my over-under.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. Lander Smith, they're going to get a heavy load of him. They're going to work the tight end in this ball game. Blake Thielen's a really efficient passer.
Absolutely.
This will probably be a game where he's, 14 for 19 passing, 165 yards, 2 scores. Lander Smith going to carry the ball 30 times. Now, the difference in the game will be, is Lander Smith going to carry it 30 times for 175, or is he going to carry it 30 times for 90? And that's on Northwestern's defense if they're going to be able to limit Montana Tech and what those boys are going to be doing in Butte. I think it's going to be a physical ball game. Montana Tech, I do think is going to get the win, but it's going to be a dogfight, man.
I think we'll see a good game. I do. I think the travel. I wouldn't say that over again. I'm beat a dead horse guy. Travel's significant, no question. But I think the week off is going to help. Obviously, both teams, I think, heal up a little bit because the nature of how they play. And like you said, Montana Tech, they're so physical. Again, Lander Smith, I don't know how many carries on the season, but it seems like 25 to 30 every week. He's got a week to heal up the bruises and all that because he is going to be the bell cow. He's going to carry it a whole bunch. It's going to be physical. It's going to be 235 pounds all day against the Red Raiders. I mean, it's just how it's going to be. Going to be really interesting. And I think it's going to be a great setting. I'm a huge fan of seeing games on the live stream. In Butte. I love it.
Yeah.
It's a great crowd. It's a cool environment. Gorgeous in the background. I mean, you look, Jason, is there anything better than watching games in the state of Montana and you see the scoreboard shot in the backdrop? Oh, man, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah,
as a Flatlander awesome. Where I live, just seeing elevation is so cool. But it's just going to be awesome. If there's a place I could go to, I'd love to go see this game in Montana. I love Montana. It's beautiful. But it's going to be a great physical game, like you said. I think it's a low-scoring game, Jason, if I had to predict.
Yeah.
I think this might be the most low-scoring game we'll see, at least between the two teams. So that's a good one. It's a good game.
Yeah. 17-13, 17-14, something like that is what we're going to see. We get into the final game, and we'll get to your questions here in just a moment, everybody. We've got Texas Wesleyan hosting their first ever NAIA postseason playoff game. This is also the first time, I think I said it last week, that playoff football has been in the state of Texas since 1995 with Mary Hardin Baylor. So Benedictine, a blue blood veteran program, is going to be heading south to play Texas Wesleyan in Fort Worth. So this is a matchup that, if there's one that I know the least of, I don't want to say know the least about, because I know a lot about these teams, but know the least about how I think it will go, it's this game, because I think Texas Wesleyan has got a lot of speed on offense, a lot of speed on defense. They got some real playmakers on offense with the Caesar kid at running back, a great quarterback, a couple nice wide receivers, a pretty efficient offensive line. Their defense is going to come at you. They've put up points this year, 59.9 points, but we also saw that with Ottawa, who plays in the same league. They put up a lot of points this year. So have they been tested? Has Texas Wesleyan had that push, that resistance against them really since Lindsey Wilson and Ottawa early in the season? I don't think they have, but that doesn't mean that they're not a quality football team. They're going to get that push from Benedictine this week, who played in the Heart of America Athletic Conference. They knocked off number 6 Morningside first week of the year, long time ago. That's ancient history. Seems like last season at this point. But Benedictine is a team that can put up a lot of points as well. So, Pat, this is just a game that if you ask me who I think is going to win tonight versus when I write my article on Tuesday that'll come out to have the full breakdown of everything, I might be picking two different teams. I could tell you right now why Benedictine's going to win. I could tell you right now why I think Texas Wesleyan's going to win.
Couldn't agree more. I think we talked about in the pre-show, Jason, this is the one that I'm not sure of.
Yeah.
I said it last week. I want to see Texas Wesleyan play in this playoff. I want to see how they match up, because we don't really know. You know, the Sooner Conference is still so new to me to see how they really stack up against the Heart, how they'd stack up against the Frontier Mid-States. I want to see it. I want to see it firsthand. I think this is a great matchup just for the unknown, because I really couldn't predict it. I wouldn't touch it. If I was a gambling man, which I'm not, I wouldn't touch this to 10 football. I would have no idea how this would go, Jason. If you tell me Texas Wesleyan wins by 2 scores at home and just puts together a great home victory with speed and skill, okay, wonderful. That's fantastic. Good for Texas Wesleyan. If you tell me Benedictine, it's a 7-hour drive. It's not bad. It's one of the shorter trips of the week, actually, Jason. And Benedictine, with their experience in the postseason, coaching staff has been there and done it, goes down there and puts together a beautiful game plan, perfect execution and a road victory. I'm not surprised either. So to me, this is totally up in the air, in my opinion. The one like you said, like we said the pre-show, this is what I'm looking forward to, maybe the most.
Yeah.
Honestly, see how this thing goes, because I have no clue. I really don't.
No, I really don't either. I can look at both teams and what they've done. There's just no comparison that you can get on these teams for who they've played throughout the year. And there's been no crossover for these teams into one another's conference or even into like opponents. The closest thing you could get is, Lindsey Wilson at a conference, and they didn't play anybody in the Heart. So it's tough to say like how they did there and how that'll draw up. Maybe a little bit with Ottawa losing to Friends on the road, but that's a road playoff game, so you're going to get a different sort of effort in those games. I'm very interested to see how Texas Wesleyan does at home against a program like Benedictine, who's been there. Granted, Benedictine has been, they didn't make the postseason, or excuse me, let me back up. No, they didn't make the postseason last year. It was only Baker that made it out of the Heart of America Athletic Conference. So even though Benedictine is what I would consider to be a veteran club and a school that has postseason experience, they weren't there last year. So this is a little bit of a new thing for them, having to go on the road and play in Fort Worth. So there's a lot of variables in this game. I think if Benedictine, rights the ship, they get down to Texas and they play a first half that's very even to Texas Wesleyan, they'll have the opportunity to win this game. But this is a tough one to predict. I'll get my full prediction in the Around the Nation article that I'll have out later this week. Any last thoughts on this one, Pat?
No, like I said, I am front and center. I am glued to this one. I think it's going to be really fun. And again, just because of the unknown. I have a pretty good idea. We have a pretty good idea, Jason, kind of how we cover these games of what we think is going to happen. I certainly hope we are surprised a little bit, maybe get an upset. But this one really, to me, is just complete question mark.
And with that said, that is our predictions for and recaps and, analysis, I guess you could say, of the NAI second round. We'll answer some questions here for a few minutes. We don't want to stick around too terribly long. Last week's 2-hour affair. Was it 2 hours we went?
It was fun.
Yeah, it was a heck of a lot of fun.
We got some hate, and bring it, man. I love it.
I love it. It was funny. I'll tell the story. Let's get to a couple questions here, a couple comments here real quick before we talk about last week's show and the recap of it. Georgetown leaving on Wednesday. A lot of time in Florida. Wow. Not surprising. And I would do the same thing. I would get on the road so you get a full day in Florida on Friday and not a half day that you're there coming in and trying to get yourself right. Like you're there Thursday night and you've got all day Friday in there. So if that's true, I think that's great.
Coach Oliver's experience right there, Jason. Absolutely.
Most likely game for an upset. I wouldn't consider what happens either way in Texas Wesleyan and Benedictine an upset. I mean, by seed, it would be if Benedictine would win. I wouldn't consider that one to be an upset. Most likely, I think
Montana Tech.
I would say Northwestern Montana Tech. I think that's a tough matchup for Montana Tech, and Northwestern has got the cojones to do it. It'll depend on MidAmerican Nazarene's offense, who shows up against Morningside. I could maybe see that one if Morningside turns the ball over and MidAmerican Nazarene can move the ball. I don't think it's going to happen with Kaiser. I don't think it's going to happen with IndianaWesley and Grandview, Montana Western. The St. Thomas Georgetown game, maybe a little bit. Georgetown has not looked like world beaters in any game this year, but that's kind of their identity as a game. So they could make that St. Thomas game a 17-14 juggernaut or slugfest, whatever you want to call it, and have a chance to win it on the last drive. So I would say Georgetown on the road at St. Thomas would be another one I put in there. But I'm with you. First one popped in my head was Montana Tech Northwestern.
I totally agree. Yeah, I think if Georgetown wins this game, it's a whole lot of Chris Oliver being really, really preparing his team well. He's a smart guy. He knows the playoff system and kind of the trials and tribulations of travel, especially this weekend, Jason. We've said it before, and I probably saying it again too much. This one's the toughest one over Thanksgiving. It is. And I think Chris is smart saying, hey, we're leaving Wednesday. Hey, moms and dads, meet us in North Georgia for Thanksgiving. I'm serious. I wouldn't doubt they're doing that because he's smart. He's been there. He's done it. And eliminating distractions, getting your players' legs back on Friday before a game is brilliant. It really is, because that is – I haven't looked at it, Jason. I'm guessing that's 15, 16 hours, if I had to guess.
I'll let you, Google that one. You're good at that. This is something I forgot right here. Good comment from Clayton. Texas Wesleyan's OC was at Benedictine previously. Might make a difference. Texas Wesleyan's OC is Fran Johnson, who was a starting quarterback at Benedictine, mid-2000s and everything, like 04, 05, 06, or, somewhere through there. He had a couple years as a starter, playing for Coach Larry Wilcox, was at Benedictine under Larry Wilcox, was there, went to Texas Wesleyan now. So, some familiarity between the two programs. And Fran Johnson was on the previous staff at Texas Wesleyan, and he stayed on with Coach Sherrod. So, a good little side storyline there that a Raven alum is going to be coaching against them at Texas Wesleyan in this weekend's game. What'd you come up with for mileage?
1,044 miles.
Well,
a little over 14.
But better than 1,500 miles, right?
Got to go through two major cities.
Yeah, you got Atlanta in there, and
Atlanta's fun. That could be a 45-minute drive to Atlanta or 4 hours.
I was in Miami for work, I think, as I alluded to on last week's podcast a little bit. And I will tell you, Miami, I don't mind driving through big cities. No No qualms to me. I'm absolutely fine with it. But there's a lot of construction in Miami. There's a lot of 6 lanes down to 2 lanes for a while there. So it's not exactly fun to get to. Now, for all of the Georgetown fans that are going down to Miami Gardens for that game, St. Thomas, beautiful campus. For the Pikefield folks going to Kaiser, great looking campus and everything they have there. Kaiser, a little more limited on the seating, so get there early on that one. St. Thomas, they've got more seating, maybe a little bit limited, but an absolutely beautiful facility that they've got down there. It's going to be going to be awesome. Start thinking about it. Grandview is also playing at I forget the name, MediaCom Stadium. They're playing at MediaCom Stadium for their game this week, so that'll be a very nice setting. Just looking at the home games and everybody that's hosting, I mean, and this is no slight to Kaiser, because they have a new facility they're playing in. I think Kaiser might be at the worst facility for this round. And again, Kaiser's got a great facility, but Texas Wesleyan playing at the independent school district that they do, it's a very nice stadium. Montana Tech has just had renovations at their stadium. It's beautiful. Morningside, 10,000 seat stadium. They've got tremendous facilities there. St. Thomas, Montana Western, new facility. Indiana Wesleyan, new facility. I mean, it's going to be a great weekend of hosting football, kind of memorable experiences for the kids that are getting out there to play this week.
No doubt. Yeah, it is a challenge, certainly on Thanksgiving, but I think, those that travel smart. Again, look at Coach Oliver. He's been experienced in this whole world, and leaving Wednesday is a smart move, I think. Be interesting.
Does Grandview changing locations make a difference? I don't think so. I mean, they're right there in Des Moines. It's going to be a little bit more of a drive from where they're currently at, but I mean, it's going to be a nicer stadium, kind of add to it, and if they keep winning, they're planning on hosting all of their postseason games there, so that will be absolutely awesome for the Grandview folks there. Any last minute questions, throw them in the chat. We'll get to them, but I think that's pretty much it. Going back to one thing that we maybe had earlier here, Pat, when we were talking about special teams. The special teams, lack of specials, an NAIA thing because of smaller staffs. I think at some schools it could be, but practice time is still the same. Like you practice for 2 hours, you're still working it in. I think sometimes you get late in the season, you change your focus a little bit, and it ends up, being problematic.
There may be some truth to that. Smaller staffs, at least full-time staff members that can still juggle coaching the D line and also be in charge of the punt team. For example, I don't know. There are some challenges that I will tell you. The great national championship teams, make it a huge part of what they do. They're successful, in all 3 phases. And I think it is important, but I didn't see very good special team play, this week in general. It's kind of a weird deal. I will say this. I think a lot of times too, the practice structure is challenging these small private schools. There's not a lot of time sometimes for practice, Jason. Yeah. I know we used to face it at St. Francis all the time. We had guys in class from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. every single day. So we'd practice early morning. We'd do a lot of different creative things to get our guys there to practice. So it is a challenge. I'm sure all the schools are go through some of those things. So you got to be efficient with your time. Again, you got to focus on, red zone, third down, and playing good pass defense at the same time. Got to take some time to execute kickoff, return, and punt as well, because it's important, or field goal or extra points, because we've seen a lot of those things, be issues here in the first round.
One quick comment to get to: Montana Tech win by 35 or 42. I don't think there'll be 42 points total in the game.
No question. I mean, to me, that's the lowest scoring game. I don't think it's even close.
Yeah.
Like you said, Jason, 17-14, 21-17. That's where I'm kind of feeling that. Yeah. The over-under. I mean, you're a gambling man.
Yeah. If you tell me the over-under set at 42, I'm probably taking the under in that one.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be a battle. I think Montana Tech's going to win. Don't get me that's still where my gut takes me on that. But Northwestern's defense is going to give them everything they got. I just think offensively, Montana Tech is a better squad at this point in the game than what Northwestern.
I am taking either Frontier teams. If they're home, I'm taking them. If I'm betting, that's where I am with it. I think they're that good at home.
Mm-hmm. No, and they've proven it this year. Like the best teams in that league do not lose at home. It's just as simple as that. That pretty much. a few like announcements. Like Tuesday, I'll come out with my Around the Nation article. That'll have a full breakdown of all these game stats. I'll give you my predicted scores. I will also have my predictions for who I think will win the national championship in that game. I've kind of alluded a little bit to some of the teams I really like, and now that I kind of see where the matchups are, gives me a little clearer path as to how that's going to look. So we'll have that coming out on Tuesday this week. But Pat and I were commenting, we love the postseason because it's the best teams playing against one another. You get these out of conference matchups. The other reason Pat and I like it, there's 4 games this week. There's 8 games next week. We don't have 46 games that we have to try to keep track of anymore. It's like, this is so much easier to do in the postseason. This is why we try to give a little bit more when we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend. I think they're going to be great matchups. I think we're going to have some real tight ones, and I think we're going to have a couple blowouts too, Jason. I just have a feeling.
Yeah.
I hope not. Hope they're all great. I'd love to see an upset. I really would. And again, we had that great question earlier. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'd love to see one just for the sake of being an exciting game and something great for the NAIA. But it's going to be good. It's going to be really, really good. And it's going to be a heck of a postseason. You could see it, just kind of how it's all shaken out, how great it's going to be.
We appreciate all of our viewers, people checking it out, people saying they love what we've done. We had plenty of people last week didn't love what we did, but I love it. Bring the hate, it makes it more fun when we get a little pushback from people that disagree with us. Makes us maybe explain ourselves a little bit more, Pat. So last week's show, heck of a lot of fun. Absolutely loved it. Appreciated all the viewers that we had. A lot of new viewers that will probably never come back because, per usual, it's the Selection Sunday show. That's when everybody really cares, and then it just kind of trickles down from there.
But they should.
They should
come back. We had tremendous viewership last week on all the platforms. It was just awesome. We'd love to see that. I think we know what the heck we're talking about. We've lived through it, and there's no one more experienced than you. I think your print work, Jason, on the website's been awesome. Just awesome job on your part, and everything you do. And this show is just fantastic. And I once again appreciate the opportunity to be on this ride with you, man. I love doing it. I look forward to every Sunday night.
Yeah, man. I love doing it. I appreciate the compliment there. I feel like if I've done anything with age, I've simplified what we do. Talk about the big games, talk about the games coming up this week, put a top 25 out. Don't try to be everything to everyone. And, the website has definitely come along, and, kind of the rebrand, refurbishing of it in the off season has certainly helped. And, the viewers, the listeners going over there making comments. If anybody's commenting on articles, I'm trying to respond. I don't really respond so much on the message boards because it's some of that. It's just like, whatever.
That's where the haters go, baby.
It's where the haters go. Yeah. I'm not liked as much there. So it's fine. I enjoy it, but I do appreciate everybody, that comments on the articles, that has questions. I try to get back and answer everybody. I don't always get it done, but it has been a wild ride this year. I don't want to say wild ride back to the top. That sounds egotistical, but it's been a wild ride to kind of get a full season back under my belt, under kind of a half season last year. And it's been a heck of a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun.
I like this one. Well, I finally give the GPAC some love. I give the GPAC love all the time. All those teams used to kick the ever-loving crap out of me every Saturday when I played. And then they kicked the crap out of them so bad on the enrollment side that my school went away forever.
Yeah, I guess you could be bitter about the GPAC, Jason. I don't know. You could, because you have life experience with it. But, it's a great conference, man. I mean, come on. Morningside. Yeah. Is it get better than Steve Ryan? I mean, come on.
No.
He's the best.
Fantastic. And
staff.
Coach McCarty, awesome.
Oh, fantastic.
Coach Penner at Dort. All those coaches are good. Coach Franzen, who is at Hastings, was at Doane as the head coach. He actually recruited me to Hastings. And this was in Hastings was super good, late 90s, early 2000s. And I had this equal scholarship opportunity to go there or Dana College. I didn't go to Hastings because they wanted me to play defense. Guess what? After a year of Dana College, I was playing defense. I was you idiot.
Yeah. Coach Franz is a great guy. You introduced me to Coach Franz years
That's
ago.
That's right.
At AFCA, at the American Football Coaches Association clinic. And he's an awesome guy. And just first-class people in the upper Midwest, man. I've always been a fan. And some good matchups this weekend. Jason, like we said, I think Northwestern can be the team that goes in and upsets. I don't like this Butte. If they're hosting, I certainly like if it's an Orange City, I'm all about Northwestern. I just think Montana Tech is a tough place to win. It really is. Look at Georgetown this year. Then everyone that played in the Frontier there, it's a challenge, no doubt.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. Pat, any final thoughts before we send everybody on their way for the week and we get back to another week of football?
No, just a great holiday coming up, buddy. I love Thanksgiving, man. My birthday.
That's right.
Today's my birthday.
Today is your birthday.
That guy.
I saw that on Facebook. I was going to do something, and then I was just like, I'm like a typical guy where it's like, oh yeah, I forgot, and then
it's
I know,
the worst. At our age, buddy, I turned 44 today. Like, who cares? It's like I'm just happy I get up in the morning. It's like, the pain level's not too bad, so that's good.
Yeah,
I don't have like hair growing weird places today. It's a win, baby. 44. But we're it was a good day, man. My son had a heck of a hockey game. I'm so proud of him, man. He was probably the goal of his life today in a big hockey game here in Fort Wayne. So
that's awesome.
Proud. It's all for Dad for birthday. So I appreciate my son. Good boy. So really great birthday and great day with my family.
My daughter discovered chips and salsa today.
Oh, what a good kid.
Yeah. We didn't do the full spicy, but just kind of dip it in there.
And a little grimace there, a little spice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's as I put it, it's Midwest salsa. There's not much spice to it. Yeah.
It's so fun. I'm happy for you, man, having a little one, but I don't miss the diapers, buddy. I don't miss the diapers. Oh, you're way too old to have diapers, buddy.
We had one yesterday. We stayed at a hotel this weekend for a little Thanksgiving thing, and we went swimming, and we had a swimmer full of the fun stuff. And it was like, how do we do this? I'm just like holding her out like this, and the wife is taking the swimmer off and holding her over a trash can in case some falls off.
And this is why I never swim in hotel pools. And my kid on hockey trips, I go, son, you're showering as soon as you get out of that pool, buddy. Just sort of hose you down, disinfect you.
Impetigo and every other disease you can get. They're like, why do I have this rash? I know why you have that rash.
Yeah. I stay in a lot of hotels with dirty hockey players too. Yeah. No thanks.
No, thank you.
No thanks. Yep.
All right. That's going to wrap it up. He's Pat Donnelly. I'm Jason Dannelly. This has been NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. We'll be back next Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central for more coverage of NAIA football. Of course, Saturday, get out there, watch some great NAIA football. Enjoy it, folks. We'll see you in a week. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.